Hi there everybody, my name is Richard McMunn from the career guidance company howtobecome.com, and in this excellent training video I'm going to teach you how to pass your NHS interview. I'm going to give you sample questions and I am also going to give you suggested answers. So please make sure you watch it from beginning to end, because if you have an NHS interview coming up, you don't want to miss this tutorial. So a very warm welcome from me. That's me there on the right hand side, Richard McMunn. I've been helping people pass their interviews for over 20 years now, and in this particular video we are going to focus on the NHS interview. Don't forget, please do subscribe to the channel by clicking the red button below the video. Then you will get notified as soon as I create new and fresh videos and content straight away. Also, I would very much appreciate it if you gave the video a thumbs up if you do like the content, and in return, if you tell me the NHS role you are being interviewed for in the comments section below this video, I will give you 5 specific questions in addition to these ones to prepare for, so you make sure you pass your interview. Okay, let's get straight into the questions and answers. First question: why do you want to work in the NHS? It's a virtually guaranteed question, so we need to prepare fully for it. So I'm going to give you a couple of tips and then a suggested answer. So here are 3 tips. Refer to the NHS values when answering this question, because that demonstrates that you've looked into the NHS and you know what their values are, and you also know what they are striving and working towards achieving. Now, also explain how patient care is something you are extremely passionate about. It doesn't matter what role you are being interviewed for, everyone is working towards as one for excellent patient care. Now, also tell the interview panel you often hear people praising the NHS staff for the tireless work they do, and that you want to be part of that team. So we want to be talking about positive things when we respond to this question. Here we go. So why do you want to work in the NHS? Here's a sample answer. I have set my sights on this role within the NHS for some time now, and have thoroughly researched the organisation and the role to make sure I can perform to the high standards required. I believe I can strive to achieve the NHS values and standards it sets itself, and I am extremely passionate about patient care. Now, there are many different roles within the NHS, and I feel my job will be to help the wider team achieve the goals that the NHS sets itself. Now, despite the NHS often coming under pressure from external factors, I have heard nothing but great things about the staff, the organisation as a whole, and the tireless work everyone continues to carry out for its patients. I enjoy working in a challenging environment and feel strongly I can cope with the pressures of the role. I believe that if I am given the opportunity to work within the NHS, you will be pleased with my performance and the contribution to the organisation I give as a whole. Now, that's a great response. It's quite in-depth, but it gets you off to a flying start in your interview. And you can also use this for the interview question, tell me about yourself, because you're focusing it entirely on the NHS. Question number 2, what qualities do you have that would be a good fit for the NHS? Here are 2 tips. Again, refer to the NHS values when answering this question, and use powerful and positive keywords and phrases within your response to this NHS interview question. So here's a sample response for you to structure your own. Oh, and by the way, at some stage I'm going to give you the slides, so there'll be a link below the video so that you can download the slides and start working on these for your own preparation. Here's the answer. The qualities I have are many and varied, including an ability to work hard under pressure, a desire to provide a quality service, and a passion for delivering outstanding patient care. I am a hard worker and someone who enjoys working as part of a team to achieve a common goal. I enjoy being busy at work, and I have a flexible approach that means I am able to cover extra shifts and help out at short notice as and when required. I am a compassionate person who believes that everyone should receive the same level of treatment and the same quality service regardless of who they are. I can also be trusted with confidential information, and I fully understand the external pressures the NHS are under. Decisions that may be made within the NHS at times may not be popular among staff or patients, but they are done for the wider good of the organisation. Finally, I am a loyal and committed person who will work hard to learn the role quickly with a view to carrying out my role with consistency, professionalism, and with a focus on quality patient care. Okay, great answer. Question number 3. Do you have any knowledge of the NHS systems and processes? Now, I am going to refer to the NHS long-term plan. You'll see there on the page that I've put a link in there to that long-term plan. I'll also put that link for you in the description below the video so that you can look at the long-term plan. Now, you don't have to know it in depth, but I would refer to it in your answer to the question. So here we go. 3 tips. Have a quick look at the NHS long-term plan. Again, the link is in the description below the video. Mention the key points of the long-term plan and state everyone is working together to achieve the main goal of the NHS. Now also, if you do get chance, before your interview, visit the hospital or place you're going to be working at to find out more about how they operate as an individual team. Here we go, here's my answer. Now, everyone in the NHS is working together as one, and there is a long-term plan in place to make sure the NHS is fit for the 21st century. Now, essentially, the NHS is looking to boost out of hospital care, reduce pressure on emergency hospital services and staff, give people more control over their own health, digitally enable primary and outpatient care, whilst also moving to an integrated care system across the board. Of course, another key goal of the NHS is to make sure you are getting the most out of taxpayers' investment in the NHS. Now, there is also a health system support framework in place, which incorporates a 5-year forward view. Local health systems will need to move to a more proactive joined-up care system, which is wrapped around patients as opposed to being an entirely reactive system. So like I say, during your research for your interview, whatever it is within the NHS, have an understanding of their wider goal. Have a look at the link in the description below the video where you can go through to the NHS website and look at their long-term plan. Question number 4 of your NHS interview. Describe a situation when you've had to adapt your approach to get your message across. So what this interview question is looking for is to assess your level of confidence and resilience, that you stick with things and that you are able to adapt your approach to get the job done, because you need to do that in the NHS while you're under pressure. So here's 2 tips to this interview question. Make sure, and this is important, you use a specific example when you were in a situation where you had to adapt your approach to get a message across. Okay, use a specific example. And I've also put there, use the STAR technique for structuring your answer. Now, if you've never heard of STAR before, it stands for Situation, Task, Action, Result. And I'll put it up in that format on the next slide, the answer for you. I've also put another link to a video here on YouTube below this video where you can learn an in-depth tutorial on structuring questions and answers around the STAR technique. Use a situation where you had to be confident and resilient to get your message across. Here's my suggested answer. Here we go. So I've put STAR on the left. That stands for Situation, Task, Action, Result. And we'll work through these in chronological order. Here we go. Situation. In my previous job, I was responsible for delivering a difficult, time-sensitive project for my line manager whilst working as part of a team. It was my job, the task, to convince the team that my proposed method of working was the most effective. The majority of the team were opposed to my methods, and they made their feelings clear within the initial team briefing. So this bit's the action. Despite this, I was still confident that my method would work, and therefore I decided to change my approach to sell my ideas to the team. I took the time to sit down privately and individually with each member of the team to explain my idea. I felt this approach would be more effective simply because it is easier to sell an idea to individuals than a group of people. The result was a success. I eventually got everyone within the team on board, and the project was delivered successfully and on time. Great answer, but that is a specific one. I am telling them what I did do in a situation as opposed to what I would do. Question number 5. Can you give an example of when you've achieved an NHS value in your career? So this assesses whether you actually know what the values are and whether you can actually demonstrate them in a work situation. So we have to know what they are. Here's 2 tips. Refer to one of the NHS values in your answer to the question. And if you've never worked in the NHS before, use either a team working example or a customer care example. So these are an example of the values, working together for patients. So that's a team working example. Respect and dignity, commitment to quality of care. Well, that's a customer service kind of example. When you've demonstrated compassion, when you've improved people's lives, or when everybody counts together, when you're all working as one. Here's my suggested answer. We're going to focus on commitment to quality of care, and we are also going to use the STAR technique in this response: situation, task, action, result. Here we go. In a previous job, a clearly upset and distressed customer came into the store to complain about how she had been mistreated by a member of our staff. It was my job to ensure the customer was okay, investigate the issue, and also resolve it to the satisfaction of the customer whilst operating within company guidelines. I sat the customer down, made sure she was comfortable before asking her to explain the situation to me. She explained a member of staff had shouted at her unnecessarily while she was parking her car in the company car park, and she felt threatened by his behaviour. After investigating the complaint thoroughly, I reported the member of staff to my head of department, apologised to the customer unreservedly, and took steps to make sure the situation did not happen again. When the customer arrived home, I telephoned her just to make sure she was still okay. The end result was the customer was looked after following the initial upsetting situation, and I managed to make sure the same situation did not ever happen again. Now, of course, in your NHS interview, there's going to be other questions, and like I say, don't forget to tell me in the comments section below the video what particular role you're being interviewed for, and I'll come on here each day and I'll give you a list of questions to prepare for. But here's some more ones. Why do you want to work in the NHS? What qualities do you have that would be a good fit? What do you know about the NHS? Well, you already know a bit about the long-term plan. Do you have any knowledge of NHS systems or processes? Describe a situation when you had to make a tough or difficult decision. What, in your opinion, is the best thing about the NHS? Can you give an example of when you've achieved an NHS value in your career? If a patient starts shouting at you, how would you deal with the situation? How do you feel about seeing unpleasant sights? And what is the NHS long-term plan, and how do you think it would impact on your role? Okay, so if you'd like more free training for your NHS interview, please go now to the website passmyinterview.com or click the link directly below the video. Please make sure you subscribe, and like I say, if you'd like this tutorial, give it a thumbs up, and I wish you all the very best in your pursuit to passing your interview. Good luck, and thank you for watching.